Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm more sick now today than I was last night when I first posted it. I'm feeling sick. I'm in worse shape today. My right side's always blocking up completely. Can barely breathe through it. It's open now. But I have no sense of smell. I was not able to stand up this morning, so I actually had to pray laying down. Now, if I stand up too long now, I'm still dizzy. It's 104 degrees and 106 degrees in Riyadh on average now. That's less than a week it's been that hot. I don't know how the hell I got a flu. If this is a flu, I don't know what the cuss word this is. In any case, I want to state to you all, for the record, that this is going to be about the necessity, the importance of Western black women suffering. I don't like to talk like this, but it is very important that the Western black woman suffer for the decisions that they tend to make. And if they can find a way to not suffer just being by themselves, or not suffer being with men who make less than they do and they have to pay, I guess you could say fine and dandy, but that's not something they can get around. I mean, Vivica Fox has had two options. She can be by herself or she can pay for a man. She told you that. She stayed with her husband for about a year and a half. She said, I got tired of reaching in my pocket to pay for stuff. Those were her only options. She didn't have any other options. It was not available to her to get a man at her age that was going to pay for everything. It's also very important to note that for these ladies, age is important. It's important to you as men. But you know, as many things that are important to men, they're actually important to women, sometimes even more so. How a woman looks actually matters a hell of a lot more to her than it does to you. Don't believe me? Think about what I mentioned yesterday. We black men talk about butt more than we do about chest. You give a black woman a boob job and watch her attitude change. She cannot stay the same, let alone a BBL. She can't. You mess around and you take her looks and she's nice to look at, like Ebony Williams as an example. She's going to have an attitude. They have to get a lot more wrinkled or start off with a lot less looks to maybe not have the same attitude. And even then, I mean, hell, I forgot the other one's name. I think it's I Am Harriet. Maybe it's not. For Harriet. Maybe that's her name. And something Foster. Even they, with their looks, have to have an attitude. I am one of those guys that actually prefers women that are mature. And if a woman is good to me, I will be good to her, provided that she's not mean to other people. Like not a B word and a witch to other people, because if she is, then she'll turn on me one day. But if she's decent with other people and good to me, I'm one of those that says, all right. And of course, she still has to pass the looks test, but I would say I'm very reasonable when it comes to that. I like what I like, but I don't demand everybody else like it. That's what's different about me. I'm more reasonable than many other men are. The women actually don't appreciate that, and they think that there's something wrong. They take issue with that. When they realize that they actually stand a chance with me, it bothers them. Now stop and think about that for a second. I don't mean any harm, but when they realize that they have a chance with me, it bothers them. What's going on here? How do you explain that? It's a big deal to them. That's what I'm getting at. They're looking and they're saying, look, if you are not giving us the same grief that other men give us when we're in our late 30s or even early 40s. And you're not choosing whether or not we're going to go out based on how bad your friends think I am. Then what the hell is wrong with you? So what I'm saying is not that because of how they look at me per se, but because of how they look at guys like this who are their second chance but are very rare, and because of how they distrust that. I'm saying that you've got to leave them be. And the only way you should be with them is if they are paying you for what they are not bringing, that they actually used to have and don't have anymore. Blackout Channel, also accountability commentary, has talked about that. Pay what you weigh. He stated Big Becky's bigger than Big Keisha because Big Becky knows she's big. I don't typically agree, but I know that Big Keisha has a bigger attitude about her being big. You gonna take me as I am. Now pass me that chicken. The fried chicken. Don't try to be smart and give me that grilled chicken, mother. That's gonna be what the difference is. Becky's catching up. They're learning from Keisha. Shout out to him for the terminology. It is important, very important, vastly important, that as Western black men, you do not leave Western black, as black men, period, actually, because I do the same thing to brothers from the continent. It is very important that you do not leave them any option that they might like unless they are trading for it. So if you're one of those guys that's like me and you prefer them older, MILF with maturity is right up your alley, you still need to ask for something extra. Still do. The minimum should be that you marry someone else too. She shares you. And I like what the Roger Report said about sharing men, that these women need to start sharing men. They need to have no other option but to share men who have and who don't have money. If you're a man that doesn't have money, the women need to share you. And that's if they're young and cooperative and fit and feminine, because those are some of the women that are the most demanding that you have another woman's attention. Therein lies another secret. Andrew Tate talked about that one time. How if you take a virginal woman, to whom does she choose to lose her virginity? She would rather the man that has experience and not another virgin like herself. And one of my exes told me as much. One of my exes explained to me that when women have been active before, married or not, when they've been active before, they simply don't want inexperienced men. You can't be coming to them a virgin man and think they're going to be happy. Nope. They cannot appreciate an inexperienced man once they have experience. They can't learn to. And so all I'm getting at is that because of the decisions that they have made from early on, the consequences have to be applicable. Must be. Must be. And what this is going to mean is that at some point we're going to have to start getting in these simps' ears. And what I suggest we do is that we give simps some advice. And if you got to lie to a simp about a particular woman, you do it. If you got to lie to him about a woman he picked, you say to him, listen, when she was childless, she always picked a different guy. I checked in, checked out, or I know someone that knows, or something like that. You tell them that. Because see, most simps have simply been in denial about it being that bad. And that's usually because simps have been lied to. When men simp, they were lied to. Men were lied to and told that we could be nice our way into a successful match with women we like, that we would choose. That was a damn lie. You can't do that. You simply can't. But simps were not told this, and by the time they were told this, it was too late for them. They had enough women lying to them and telling them that you can. And so they tend to believe it. You have to be able to do two things because you have to tell them two things because one of the things that does happen when simps realize how rough the game is, the simp still is not going to admit this to others and oftentimes not to themselves because they think that this means they're bottom of the barrel. They don't understand that most men are bottom of the barrel in the eyes of most Western women. So they have to be told that it's not their fault. They could not have done any better. They have to be told that. They have to be told they lied to you by what they want in the first place. Your mom might have been one of those lying, but you've been lied to by what they want. And therefore, it's not your fault. It's not most men's fault. They don't want most of us. That's why. A bunch of us without kids are getting hollered at by these big broads with kids. They were childless at some point in their life. How come they didn't holler at us? We got to sit simps down and tell them, look, man, stop and think about this and understand this ain't your fault because it happens like this with most of us. We got to let them know what it is. That even though it's this way and it is that bad, it's not their fault. When you tell a man that, and he hears it from more than one guy, then the light goes off. And that's when the simp is going to find the strength to go back home and tell that single mom, look, you know what? When your baby daddy calls to see your kids, that's cool. Just let me be around. What? You heard me. Why? Well, you with me now. All conversation should be about that. Hell, if you want, I'll talk to him. I'm not trying to get in the way of him seeing his kids. And what, you don't trust me? Well, I did until you asked me that question. Hell, matter of fact, some simps, once you take the guilt off of men's shoulders, because you know in our community, we were raised to blame men for the results they couldn't get, like it's our fault. But once you take that guilt off of men's shoulders, a lot of simps will go home and just say, you know what, I want somebody else. Bye. What? Yeah. Or maybe they'll go home and they'll say, listen, there's nothing wrong with the kids, but they need to live with their father. It's the dad's right anyway. Wait, what? Oh no, we a package deal. Hey, I said ain't nothing wrong with the kids, but they need to live with their dad. Well, why? Well, because if I had them, I want them living with me. That's why. What is the problem with that? He ain't no kind of daddy. Well, you know, you picked him. Well, I was young. Yeah, I was young too. I'm not saying for them to not visit you. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying they're not being. I'm saying that when they need to live is going to be with their dad. Simps are going to find the strength to handle this different ways, but they are going to lay down some rules. And they're going to have her pay like she weighs. That's important to understand because one of the reasons that Ebony Williams talked the way she did with that nasty, funk, stanky attitude that we don't like, even though she has a right to her preference, we're looking at her like, yeah, but these aren't even your preferences. Stop lying about it. It's really the dishonesty that gets us and the materialism and the runaway hypergamy. Because we know Becky's, when they come from the elite, they got boyfriends that aren't elite. We know that. Sister comes from the elite, ain't nobody ever good enough for her. Never. And really, that's what's getting us. But the reason that Ebony can have that kind of attitude is because Ebony, you know, in all honesty, Ebony hears stories from friends on TV. Or she hears guys saying, yeah, well, you know, that ain't no big thing to me. I mean, even though she looks at these dudes as simps and doesn't want them, she hears guys say that the things that other men don't want are not problems to these particular guys. I mean, age isn't a thing for me. That's genuine. And I told you, if they hear me say that, they think I'm a simp. And that's one thing I never am. Because I know better. That's one thing I never am because I know that sometimes without being a simp, Western women can think that you are a simp just because you are nice about a particular thing. because they're always looking for reasons to disqualify you. That's when they like you. They look for that stuff. So I know about that. And yet and still, a lot of the simps out there, they just, when it comes down to it, it's not that they haven't been told all the red pill info. They may have been told bits and pieces, but the more important thing they were never told, gentlemen, is it's not their fault. So when the women shame these passport bros, well, y'all are the unwanted men of the West, then when you're aware that it's not your fault, you look back and you say, but most men are not wanted by most women in the West. That's not even our fault. Try again. And when you do see a man you want, you only go for the few that you do want. Out of the men you want, you only approach a few. I hope that this message helps, gentlemen. One way or another, there have to be consequences. And it's got to be the consequences that they don't want right now. Not because we hate them, but because they made those decisions. And if we don't enact the consequences for this generation, the ones that are little girls now are going to see the ones that are now grown women getting away with bad decisions, and they're going to get older and demand to make the same bad decisions and get away with it the same way. Because if I were a young guy looking at older dudes make bad decisions and get away with it, I would demand to get away with it the same way when I get older. We all would. Thank you for listening. And before I forget, hit the Cash App on your way out of the jet black aircraft. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me until the wings and the wheels fall off. Justice forever.